Dr. Emil Haldey. Each week, we comb through the myths and facts about health and wellness in order to bring you the best advice and the right information that you need to live an incredible life. Now, here is Dr. Emil Haldey.
Welcome to Prescription for Success. This is your host, Dr. Emil Haldey. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Michael Murray, ND. Dr. Murray is one of the world's leading authorities on natural medicine. He has published over 30 books featuring natural approaches to health. He is the writer of Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine. Dr. Murray is a featured guest in many prime TV and radio shows. He's endorsed by many influential names in the health world. Dr. Murray is also the Chief Science Officer of Enzymedica. He compiled a massive database of original scientific studies from over 70,000 articles from medical literature proving the power of nature for healing and health. It is from this huge database that Dr. Murray provides the answers on health and healing on his website, drmurray.com. He created the program to reverse diabetes naturally, among many other things. Welcome to the show, Dr. Murray.
It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. I'm a big fan, and we have prepared a tremendous show for you.
Yes, I'm excited. It's a great service you're providing.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Murray, tell us a little about your personal story and that connected you to food as medicine. And I know it touched you quite a bit.
You know, so many people in our field have interesting stories of how they were inspired by basically the awe and harmony in nature, and I'm no different. I had my health tremendously benefited through naturopathic medicine, and that stimulated a deep desire within me to understand how I can be as healthy as I possibly can. And this began at the age of 20. So I'm now 61, and I think I've fared well through the life that I've created for myself with a focus on health and wellness.
Yes, absolutely. I could tell you, I've titled today's show, The Power of Nature and the Future of Medicine. So we have a lot of exciting things to discuss.
You're right on track there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We live in a very technological era, and we have access to all types of information and also misinformation for that matter. So hence the myth about natural approaches. And there's a misconception out there that natural approaches do not have scientific merit, and they do not provide the same efficacy and results as the pharmaceutical counterparts. Can you talk to that?
Well, first of all, let me address the concept of technology. I believe that the greatest technology in the universe is nothing that man has created. I believe the greatest technology is nature, and it's through the food that we eat on a regular basis that we communicate with that technology, and that technology communicates with us. My latest book is called The Magic of Food, and I thought that was an appropriate title because one of the great writers of our time, the author of 2001: A Space Odyssey, has a great quote. He says, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And I've just told you that nature is the greatest technology, and we're just scratching the surface in our understanding of how nature impacts our health. And I really think, not to kind of throw stones, but I really think that when medical historians look back at the last 100 years, they're going to look back at it as kind of the dark age of pharmacy. And I say that because so many of these drugs just don't make any sense. They end up either suppressing symptoms and causing a worsening of the disease or creating more problems than good. And when you start studying how these drugs work, you can see that they're just really fool's gold and they're not getting at the underlying cause. So I think the medicine of the future is definitely going to be focusing on natural approaches. We're learning more and more about the role that food plays in our health. There is now this whole field of interest in the microbiome, something that natural practitioners have been talking about for decades, the importance of the gut flora. And now we know that we have 10 times as many microbial cells and microbial DNA in our microbiome than we have in the human body. So we're 90% foreign organisms and 10% human. So, you know, it's really an exciting time. It's really been an amazing kind of revolution that's been taking place in my career. I graduated from Bastyr University in 1985, so, you know, coming on 35 years, and it's just amazing what has become mainstream. You know, salad bars weren't that common even back then, and, you know, I look at the food choices that are available now. for health conscious people, and it's fantastic. And it's going to get, there's going to be continued changes as more and more people seek healthier foods. We're going to see changes at the largest level. And, I'm talking about the vision of, fast food restaurants incorporating healthier meals. And we're starting to see evidence of that. It needs to happen a little quicker so we can curb this epidemic of poor health, diabetes, obesity, inflammation in general, and all the consequences that come from that.
Yeah, well, thank you for that answer, and also thank you for sharing your age. Clearly, this natural medicine approach has worked really, really well for you.
Thank you.
As far as how you look and feel and present yourself. You talk about magic, right? Magic, food being our magic. It's amazing being a compounding pharmacist. Sometimes we create a very simple, customized medications, but our patients get back to us and say, "Look, it's sort of magical. My symptoms are gone. I'm feeling so much better." When there is a right approach to health, magic happens. And I agree with you. Our best technology is nature and what nature has created for us. And we have so much more to discover. So you've gathered 70,000 scientific articles supporting the use of natural approaches for human health and healing.
Right.
So this is your life's work. What fueled this dedication to this journey?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've been blessed. I have a great sense of mission, and I believe life has purpose and meaning, and I was fortunate to discover my path, and I can see how all the pieces fit together. I'm primarily a writer, and when I was in 4th grade, I had a wonderful teacher, Mrs. Strand. In front of the class, she had a board with all of our names on it, and if you wrote a book report, you got a gold star. Well, I wrote so many book reports that she had to create another poster just with my name on it. And in many respects, I'm still doing that today, writing things in the hope that I'll get a gold star. And for me, the gold star is that people read what I have to say and actually take the steps, make the actions that are required to achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve. If they do that, then hopefully I'll get a gold star from them.
Yes, well, very powerful. Life exists in language, right? And you're using your language to communicate the magic of nature and the magic of medicine.
Neil, you said something earlier about kind of the myth and the misconception. We hear so many times that there's no science behind these natural approaches, and it's really silly because we now know that diet is a key factor. We know that how important our attitude is, and we know how important lifestyle. Those are foundational aspects of health. If you want to improve health, that's where you start. You start with diet, lifestyle, attitude, and then when you need to support people's health, we should be looking to nature first instead of looking at drugs as kind of biochemical band-aids, as I said earlier, and that often leads to suppressing the symptoms, but at a cost, and that cost is usually a deterioration of health instead of what we're really looking for, and that is getting at a cure and improved health.
Enhancing health. So yes, we agree that there are these myths out there that natural approaches do not work. Can you give us several examples or something comes to mind about natural approaches that do better than gold standard?
Yeah, I think one of the best examples, it's a good illustration, and it kind of sets the stage for understanding the difference between kind of palliative, symptom-oriented medicine and getting at the root cause. If we look at osteoarthritis, which is the most common form of arthritis, the drug approach is to use non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, drugs like aspirin and ibuprofen and all its variations, Advil, Motrin, that sort of thing, and Celebrex as well, which is COX-2 inhibitor. What we know is with these drugs, they reduce inflammation and they're very good at improving the symptoms to a degree, but they end up causing problems. They can lead to severe GI disturbance and damage. They can lead to cardiovascular disease in the case of Celebrex. But here's something that people don't realize about these drugs. These drugs have actually been shown to inhibit the formation of cartilage. So the reason they work to reduce pain is they block enzymes that produce pain-producing compounds. They also inhibit the enzymes that build cartilage. So you're taking a drug, it's reducing the symptoms, but you're actually accelerating the destruction of the cartilage damage. That's what leads to osteoarthritis. So that's completely irrational. And that's one of the reasons why we see osteoarthritis leading to so many hip replacement therapy and and knee replacements, because the cartilage has been just destroyed, not only by the disease, but also by the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. On the flip side, there are a number of compounds that have been shown in double-blind, placebo-controlled studies to work even better than these drugs. And they don't work by suppressing the symptoms, they work by helping to rebuild the cartilage and thereby getting rid of the symptoms. Glucosamine sulfate is probably the most well-known, but there are other things: natural eggshell membrane, type 2 collagen, curcumin, very enhanced forms of curcumin, proteolytic enzymes. There are a number of natural compounds that have been shown to work very well in double-blind, placebo-controlled trials that work not by suppressing the symptoms, but by really getting at the root cause. And that's where you get to good medicine. Good medicine is always about identifying the cause, removing obstacles to health, and promoting the body's own ability to heal itself. Symptom-oriented medicine, the use of drugs primarily to reduce symptoms, it just leads to more problems. And sometimes it's many years before we see the detrimental effects. A good example, I don't know if you saw the report about all these drugs that are now being linked to Alzheimer's disease.
Yes.
Basically anticholinergics, and sleeping pills, but it goes beyond that. These proton pump inhibitors like Nexium and Prilosec, I think these drugs are especially harmful. These drugs, they're used by 15 million Americans. They're a $16 billion industry, and even in mainstream medical journals, they report that 80% of these patients that are using these drugs shouldn't be using them. They're taking them inappropriately. So 4 out of 5 people shouldn't even be on these drugs. And these drugs are dangerous long-term use. They're associated with disruption of our microbiome. They block the secretion of hydrochloric acid, so they're going to disrupt digestion. So we get nutrient deficiencies, we get increased risks of infections, we get increased risk for fractures and osteoporosis. And we also get an increased risk for heart disease and strokes and Alzheimer's disease. They did a study at Stanford University. They looked at through medical records, and they found that when people were prescribed these proton pump inhibitors, they increased their risk of having a heart attack or stroke by 250%. That's a huge amount. So the next question is, well, what's going on? How are these drugs causing this side effect? And it turns out that not only by blocking proton pumps, which are very important for our cells, they also inhibit the formation of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, this is a compound that's responsible for making our blood vessels elastic and able to dilate. And that also prevents the formation of clots. So if you're not making nitric oxide, your blood vessels are more constricted and they're more likely to form clots. And so that can lead to blockage, and that's what a heart attack or a stroke is. So, that's why we see that big complication. So proton pump inhibitors, these are drugs that I think will eventually be taken off the market because of class action lawsuits, because the data is so clear. They're really a underlying factor. Clostridium difficile infections, that's gone up 20-fold since the use of these proton pump inhibitors. Yeah. You take a proton pump inhibitor in combination with an antibiotic, your risk of developing this serious form of diarrhea is increased dramatically. So I think there's going to be so many class action lawsuits against these sorts of drugs. Is there a safe, effective, natural alternative? Absolutely. I think the best one is called alginate raft therapy. This involves ingestion of a fiber from a seaweed. It's a well-proven therapy for gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is one of the most common causes of people being on a proton pump inhibitor. This is a condition where the stomach contents reflux or flow upwards and irritate and can erode or ulcerate the esophagus. So what this alginate does, it mixes with you take it with calcium carbonate in an appropriate formula, and the calcium carbonate forms bubbles, and this this fiber forms a raft, a literal raft that floats on top of the stomach contents and acts as a barrier to prevent that contents from flowing up. And this therapy works. In the UK, the number one prescription for gastroesophageal reflux disease is not a proton pump inhibitor, it's alginate-based therapy. In the US, it's not an over-the-counter or prescription drug, it's available as a dietary supplement. So people can learn about this really well-proven natural approach. They can go to my website, drmurray.com. It's either drmurray or DOCTORMURRAY, drmurray.com. You'll see a tab that says free resources. And I put several books because I want people to get the information so that they can really save their lives in many cases. So I've got information on natural alternatives for lowering cholesterol. And these are all part of a series, What the Drug Companies Won't Tell You and Your Doctor Doesn't Know. I focus on these free resources on stress, anxiety, and insomnia because I want to get people off of these sedative hypnotic drugs. These drugs are really problematic. I also kind of dispel some of the myths about statins and what the drug companies won't tell you and your doctor doesn't know about cholesterol and heart health. And the latest book I put on there is What the Drug Companies Won't Tell You and Your Doctor Doesn't Know About GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. And it's a PDF free download. There's no upsell. There's nothing I'm trying to make money on here. I just want to get that information out there.
Yeah, this is very gracious of you.
Change your life.
Yeah, very gracious of you, Dr. Murray. Thank you. And if you're listening, please make a note of it. Get those resources. It's available to you, no charge, but could be very, very important for your health. So I do believe that most medical doctors are very well-meaning. They went to med school. They've dedicated years of their lives. So what would you recommend to someone who's listening to our program and has an excellent relationship with their doctor, but interested in natural approaches to medicine? How would they approach it with their current medical system that they're in?
Yeah, it's very difficult, and hopefully that their doctor is open-minded. I've never had any trouble communicating with medical doctors, and I'm sure you have had pretty much the same experience, because we all want the same thing. We want the patient to get results, and a lot of times the doctors are just not aware of these alternatives. And what's really helpful about the way that I write is I support my recommendations with what I found in the medical literature. With this alginate-based therapy, it's really well researched. Over 17 double-blind studies. In these studies, they show an efficacy in non-erosive GERD. That therapy is much more effective than PPIs. And that's the most common form of GERD. So, but most gastroenterologists are probably completely unaware here in America. But in other parts of the world, they're more enlightened. They're aware of some of these therapies. And I wrote a whole book on what the drug companies won't tell you and your doctor doesn't know. And I went through every major class of drug, and it was really, it was inspiring in some ways, because I know, like your show, we're talking about the future of medicine. I know that as medicine evolves, they're going to realize the folly, what they're doing currently. And we're almost there. We're almost there, but there's still a lot of economic and political and infrastructure leverage on doctors to prescribe drugs. And so when that starts to break down, I think we're gonna really see a revolution.
But I see a major pivot that's happening already. It's going to be happening more and more over the next few years, where patients are literally demanding, asking their doctors for more customized approaches. They're asking for more natural approaches, even as PRP or stem cells consideration. They're talking to their doctors about diet. So the pivot is happening, and it's a major one. I think within the next 20, 30 years, the medicine will be completely different. Yeah,
and you mentioned personalized medicine several times, and that's obviously what the future of medicine is going to be, because even with food, there's an old saying, right? People may have heard this: one man's food is another man's poison. Mm-hmm. And we're learning that, the way in which our microbiome, and for many people, the way in which they respond to even sometimes what we consider health promoting food, it can cause harm.
Yes. So let's talk about food. In a lot of your books, you write about food as medicine. So I'd like to hear your opinion of what do you consider the best diet? And what is the scientific literature
Yeah,
that
well,
you
we
use
were
to
just talking
support it?
about we're just talking about personalized medicine, right?
Yes.
And I think there's some basic principles of diet that everybody should follow, right? I think we need to get away from processed foods. We need to get away from the overconsumption of refined carbohydrates. And even grains in general, I think need to be cut back. We're not burning the same amount of calories that we were 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. So we don't need those calories coming from grains. I think that if we focus more on richly colored vegetables is our mainstay, if we get the right types of fats in our diet and stay away from the bad fats, most people know what those are, fried fatty foods, too much of the omega-6 fatty acids that we get from soy, safflower, sunflower, corn, and soy. We got to stay away from those and get more of the monounsaturated fats from olive oil, avocado oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, cold water fish. We need those good oils, and more of those good oils and less of those bad oils is associated with a significant reduction in inflammation and a better risk reduction of all major disease, especially cardiovascular disease.
So you're a big promoter of plant-based diet.
I'm a big promoter of eating more plant foods. I'm not in, for some people, I think the plant-based diet is the best one for them. How do you know? I don't think it's based upon blood type. I think it's more there's more factors involved. But I think if your genetic history is more from an agrarian society, and Asia is a great example of that, then a predominant plant-based diet is probably the way to go. And I think people should experiment and find out what is the best diet for them. I was a vegan for probably about 6 months and a vegetarian for about 6 years, but I found that wasn't sustainable for me. And so I don't eat red meat myself. I may have, in 40 years, I've had, sometimes in social situation, it's rude if you don't participate. And I'm not gonna, we have to have our philosophies and we have to adhere to them. But in 40 years, I think I've had steak maybe 2 or 3 times, and it was socially appropriate. I'm not, but I might have venison once a year, maybe lamb a couple times a year. But my diet's primarily, you could say, pescatarian. I do eat fish and seafood. I'll have chicken occasionally, but and I use whey protein as my protein source for my smoothies. And I do I do think eggs are a good food. So I'll have eggs mixed in with egg whites because I want that extra protein. But I have kind of an odd diet that I find works for me.
Right.
It's very rich in plant foods. One thing that we've learned about the microbiome is that a healthy microbiome is characterized by significant diversity. And one of the great contributors to diversity of the microbes is the diversity in the diet.
Dr. Murray, can you define microbiome for our listeners?
Yeah, microbiome refers to the collection of genetic material in our gut that's not human. So the genetic material from bacteria, yeast, viruses, and these sorts of organisms. Our gut flora is what constitutes our microbiome. And researchers are discovering that our overall health is directly linked to the health of this microbiome. Hippocrates said all health begins in the gut. He also said all disease begins in the gut. Now we know that a lot of that's related to the types of microorganisms that we have growing. And one of the great examples of the influence of the microbiome was a study that came out in Nature about 20 years ago. They took fat rats and skinny rats and they swapped their intestinal flora. The fat rats became skinny and the skinny rats became fat. And so the idea was, geez, if this can happen in animals, it can happen in humans as well. And it was really one of the big stimuli for looking at the microbiome and the influence of diet, lifestyle, and drugs, and probiotics and prebiotics and all these compounds on gut health, because we know that gut health does impact our overall health.
Yeah, very powerful. What are your thoughts on dairy and legumes?
I like berries. I have, berries. In my magic of food, I identified 7 foods that I think are superfoods. And, berries and high flavonoid content foods, which include legumes, I think are superfoods. I know legumes are getting kind of a bad rap right now. There are people saying, oh, stay away from legumes. I think that's a mistake. I think legumes are a great food for most people, especially for people that have high cholesterol levels, diabetes, or struggling with their weight. The fiber is very beneficial, and a high legume diet has been shown to be a good therapy for helping people control their blood sugar levels. So the concern that's been raised about legumes is they contain these compounds known as lectins, but lectins are deactivated by heat, and so cooking legumes, it will get rid of those.
Especially
those
high pressure cooking, that will help us
Yes.
get rid of those lectins.
Yes.
Dr. Murray, I hope you are having as much fun as I am talking about these interesting things in medicine and food in our healthcare structure. We'll have even a better discussion after we come back after a short break.
Very good.
You're listening to Prescription for Success. If you'd like to reach the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to wellness@hcompound.com. Now back to Prescription for Success.
Welcome back to Prescription for Success. This is your host, Dr. Emil Haldey. Today I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Michael Murray, a naturopathic physician, massive healthcare influencer, and the author of more than 30 books featuring natural approaches to health. To learn more about Dr. Murray and his work, please visit drmurray.com. So we're having a lot of fun, Dr. Murray, talking about health, diet.
Yeah.
Talked about our healthcare system, some alternative ways to manage your health. Before the break, we talked about a diet and the best diet. And you mentioned that the best diet out there is the one that fits you as an individual.
Yes.
There's a big movement out there for paleo diet or carnivore diet. What are your thoughts on that?
I think anytime we focus on kind of an extreme diet, we run the risk of missing out on some key factors that can improve our health. And I know the keto diet's very, very popular right now, and I think it can be used on a short-term basis, but I don't think of it as a long-term solution. And the research shows that.
Why do you say that it's not a long-term solution?
What's that?
Why do you say that it's not a long-term solution? I know a lot of people who are
sort
of addicted to the diet.
What the research shows is that it doesn't increase life expectancy. It's not associated. It would not be considered a primary health promoting diet. It's just not.
That's amazing.
We're not designed. Our physiology is not designed to be in a ketogenic state. It's just not. It's not natural. You're going to be in a ketogenic state during famines and during starvation, but there's no diet that's really so restrictive of carbohydrates that you're in a ketogenic state.
What are your thoughts on a paleo diet where you promote a lot of protein?
Yeah, I think, the definition of what is a paleo diet is a bit of a moving target, and it's debatable. Do we really know what the Paleolithic humans were eating? And probably a fallacy that their diet was overly focused on meat. I think it was, they were hunter-gatherers, and I think it was much more balanced than what's being promoted. I do think it's useful to get away from refined carbohydrates, and there's many principles of the paleo that I support 100%. And I'm a pragmatist. I want people to get results, and we have a problem, and people are suffering with their weight and with their health. And so if they can get some improvement with a paleo or a keto diet or even a carnivore diet, I think that's great, but I would not adhere to those sorts of diets on a long-term basis. I think we're designed to utilize these plant foods. If you look at our anatomy and our gastrointestinal tract, we're designed to be primarily a plant-based eater and an opportunistic carnivore. That's kind of my thoughts on that. We need to eat more good vegetables. And when I say, what do I mean? How many servings? Well, we know that we have to get at least 5 servings of vegetables a day. A serving is defined as 1/2 cup cooked or 1 cup uncooked. And I like to recommend about 50-50. So we need 5 servings a day just to provide the minimal benefit from our diet. Because what the research shows quite convincingly is if people hit that 5 a day, the USDA didn't pick that number out of a hat. It was based upon epidemiological studies showing that when people hit that amount, they could reduce their risk for all these chronic degenerative diseases. So we need at least 5 servings of vegetables, 2 servings of fruit each day. I think it's critical. Now, we should be consuming low glycemic choices, those that aren't going to raise our blood sugar. We need to mix it up. We want to eat a variety of different fruits and vegetables. We want to make sure that they're nutrient dense, very colorful, because these plant pigments, flavonoids, polyphenols, and carotenes, they're all very important in protecting our cells from damage. Very useful in promoting health. So I think that should be our basis of our diet.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you that we are plant-based beings and opportunistic carnivores. I love the definition. So what do? You're a regular person out there. Let's say you're mid-age and you're a little overweight. You maybe have a little bit of type 2 diabetes, when I say a little bit controlled by diet on a good day. You're low energy because the doctor is telling you you're getting older. What diet should one pursue? And you also talked about short-term basis and long-term basis. Help that individual out there. Perhaps it's one of our listeners, middle-aged man or woman with certain conditions. What do you do? What are your next steps diet-wise?
Yeah, a couple of things. Sometimes it's those little steps that we take that have the biggest impact. And I think giving up something of value to you is a huge statement. So maybe it's ice cream. Maybe you're a person that just loves ice cream. Well, there's a lot of calories in ice cream. What if you gave up ice cream? Well, it's tough for the first 21 days, maybe the first month, but after that, you might still think about having a bowl, but it's not that hard to stay away. And just something as simple as that. Some people are all or nothing though. They can't just take little steps. They have to do drastic things. And
so if they do all or nothing, which way do they go? Do they go keto? They go paleo, plant-based? What's the easiest in your opinion?
Well, I think if you need to lose weight, and for some people, I've got a buddy, he's been struggling for 6 years, and it's the same thing. We have many discussions about what he should do, and then it wasn't anything I said to him. Was that I said something to him 6 years ago. I said, Chris, you're an all or nothing type of guy. The only way you're going to achieve your weight loss goal is for a month eat no more than 600 calories a day. And he said, I can do that, but he never did. He tried different programs. He was doing CrossFit, working out like a fiend, and he actually gained weight. So finally, he reached an all-time high, and he decided, he saw a video, and he said, I'm going to do this fast. I said, okay. I said, go for it. And so he's lost about 20 pounds in 2 weeks.
That's tremendous.
Fasting. That's the only way, because of his personality. I knew him well. He's going to lose the 25 to 30 pounds that he needs to lose. He's doing it in an extreme way. But I knew that that's what it was going to take for him to do it. And he finally reached a pain threshold and a motivation that he actually took that advice to heart. Right now I'm Chief Science Officer of Enzymedica. We're a digestive health company. Before that, I worked with a company called Natural Factors, and we developed a special dietary fiber matrix called PGX. And I think PGX is really kind of a holy grail for helping people with weight loss. What it is, it's a soluble fiber that when you ingest it, it forms this large viscous mass. It fills up your stomach so you feel full. And, I've had great results. You mentioned my diabetes reversal solution. We've had this program going for, I think, about 4 years now. I've helped thousands of people, many people who were, quite large, very morbidly obese. achieve their ideal body weight, and PGX is a big part of our program. There's other natural compounds that can help too. Berberine, have you talked about berberine?
A very powerful compound. Can you speak to it?
Yeah, berberine is a yellow alkaloid that's found in golden seal, Oregon grape, barberry. If this was a drug, it'd be the biggest selling drug in the history of pharmacy. Why would I say that? Because there are double-blind studies that show that it lowers cholesterol levels as effective as a statin, plus it also lowers triglyceride levels. It also lowers blood sugar levels as well as metformin.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, it lowers blood pressure as well as an ACE inhibitor or any other class of antihypertensive. So it's a natural compound that can help people lose weight. It helps people lose weight. It helps lower cholesterol, triglycerides, blood pressure, and blood sugar.
Yes, I actually recommended this product to my parents and to my in-laws. It's a really amazing natural product.
It is, and it's safe. One of the interesting things about this, I don't know if you caught this on my in one of my newsletters, but I wrote a newsletter. It has all these wonderful effects, and it looks like the majority of the effects are through the microbiome because it's poorly absorbed. We know that clinically it produces these results, but very little of it is getting absorbed. So it's more likely that the effects are through normalization of the microbiome. And these herbs, golden seal, Oregon grape, barberry, they were primarily used as anti-infective agents in parasitic infections and gastrointestinal infections, and has a really interesting effect on our microbiome. It has a focus on selectively inhibiting the growth or killing bad bacteria, pathogens, while at the same time, by killing off what we don't want, it allows what we do want to flourish. So bifidobacteria, lactobacillus, a couple other bacteria, one of them is Akkermansia muciniphila. What we know about this bacteria is that it's associated with improving insulin sensitivity. You improve insulin's action, you help improve blood sugar control, appetite control, and metabolism so people lose weight. People that are obese tend to have lower levels of Akkermansia muciniphila than people that are thin. This Akkermansia muciniphila, it's given that name muciniphilia. Mucin means the lining, that mucin lining of our intestines. Philia means love. It loves mucin, and it forms that mucin in conjunction with our intestinal cells that line the intestines. And so it's really a key goal in people that have leaky gut. You have to improve that activity of that Akkermansia muciniphila. The other bacteria—
That's powerful. It's very powerful. You talked about love, and you mentioned also gratitude, I think, or your attitude in the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how that impacts your health and overall well-being?
Yeah, so, I'm primarily a medical researcher. I read information, and just as I did in fourth grade when writing book reports, I try to digest that information and then put it in my own words, and hopefully in a way that people can understand. So I come across all these really interesting articles, and I came across an article many years ago, and it was trying to create a hierarchy of health, and it looked at all the different factors that are associated with longevity and health and happiness. And when they sifted through all the data, the factor that had the greatest significance in determining a person's ability to live long, healthy, and happy was their ability to express gratitude. And as soon as I read that, I went, yeah, of course, because think about somebody that you know that's healthy, happy, long-lived, is a polite way of saying old, and that you would want to be like when you got to be their age. I guarantee you they possess grace and a freedom in expressing gratitude and appreciation. There's something about expressing gratitude that does something to our heart and our spirit and our cells throughout our body that promotes health.
That's absolutely phenomenal. There is actually a study out there that links the waves of the heart to our EEG waves during the expression of gratitude. And the study shows that the waves sort of get aligned. The heartbeat becomes similar to the EEG as much as possible. So the expression of gratitude is a phenomenal concept. Anxiety, paranoia in a basic way, nervousness cannot exist in our body when you are feeling grateful. So the message to our audience here is that it's available to all of us. It's free. It's out there. Be grateful for your family. Be grateful for your kids, for your loved one, for your partner, for your coworkers, for your team. There's so much that we have to be grateful for. Yes, we all have problems. Yes, those problems are a sign of life, but we have so much more to be grateful for. And let's choose together to choose the right stuff to be grateful for, and the problems will get solved.
Yeah.
I think it's a tremendously powerful concept for health. I don't think that one can be healthy without the right attitude. We could give you the best supplements, the best food, but if your mind is not wired for success and for well-being and for healing, it stops. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And I just got interviewed for a summit called Love is Medicine. And that was pretty much the whole focus of the summit and my interview. You know, I gave that quote from Hippocrates about all health begins in the gut. Cicero had a quote. He said, gratitude is not only the greatest virtue, it's the mother of all others. And when you think of pretty much any major religion in the world, gratitude is a big part of it, and learning how to say grace. And I was really blessed. My grandmother taught me something that I think is something that we all should be reminded of, because I think most of us had an influence that probably told us to do this. But I find that myself, I'm very influenced by the last thoughts I have before I go to sleep. And when I was a kid, my grandmother would make me share with her all the things I was grateful for. And, you know, you can develop habits in kids. Yes. And those habits can last a lifetime. And sometimes we can forget those basic tenets of having a happy life. And then something might happen to us. And then we realize, you know, I had a really wise grandmother that gave me the keys. And yes. That was one of the keys that she gave me. And so, as I said, I'm very impressioned by the last thoughts before I go to sleep. So I try to make those last thoughts about things I'm most grateful for.
Yeah. We are what our rituals are in many ways, what our habits are, right? And that applies to food, to our health. And if our habits are to go to the gym every day, no matter what, we go to the gym every day to work out. If our habit is to eat healthy foods, whatever that is for you, we eat healthy foods. If our habit is to have a ritual of positive thoughts before we go to sleep and waking up being positive and joyful, that's a tremendously positive habit to have. So I think that I want to communicate this message to our listeners that it's time for all of us to develop some more additional healthy habits. I think if you have those habits, it's very powerful. But and there's always a way for improvement. I have a ton of those habits, but I think there's a way to add to it. And I love the example you gave, thinking of positive thoughts before you go to sleep, because that, I'm sure, helps you wake up in a more joyful, restful state.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, questions are really powerful in our subconscious mind, and sometimes we don't pay attention to the conversation we're having with our subconscious mind. You know, if you ask your subconscious mind the question, how could I be so stupid? You know, your subconscious mind's going to have a field day throwing past examples and memories that are going to reinforce that. But, you know, it's a different question when you pose to the subconscious mind, what do I need to learn from this experience to grow and to be able to receive and express more love, or some variance of that? It's a different question, and the answer is going to be much better. So, you know, being a guardian of your thought is really important. We were focused so much on, many people, many health nuts are so focused on what they're putting in their body, they're not focused on what they're putting in their mind through what they're saying, not only what they're thinking, but what they're saying to themselves and to others. It's going to be interesting because all of this fits. I always get asked the question, well, Dr. Murray, what's the most important thing? If I had to do one thing, what could it be? And I say, well, it's simple. All you can do is all you can do, so why not do all you can do? It's not one thing. You know, if you look at your car, my God, you know, look at all the things that can go wrong with your car that will not allow you to drive that car. Maybe you don't have a key. Maybe it's out of gas. Maybe it has a flat tire. Maybe the battery's dead. You know, It goes on and on and on. It could be many different things. So for that car, if any of those things are not there, it's not going to function properly. Your body and your health is the same way. You've got to do everything. You've got to pay attention to everything.
Yes.
And people don't like hearing that, but here's what motivates me. I've been with people who had the poorest of prognoses. Their health is in peril. They're dying, or they're dealing with something that is really tough to beat. And those people will do everything they possibly can. And the best example of this was a gentleman that I had. He had a very severe genetic defect. He was the oldest living person in history with this defect because he had just a tremendous will. He went through 3 kidney transplants, and just the pain and suffering, but there was a life force within him, and he did not want to die. And I asked him once, what motivated him? And he said, and that's where I got that, because I asked him that question, and he said, all I can do is all I can do. So why wouldn't I do all that I can do?
Wow, so powerful.
So, that inspired me, and I hope it inspires your listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. That's very touching and inspiring. Dr. Murray, as you know, I'm a compounding pharmacist, and I create a lot of customized medications. And we talked before the show about one particular product or formulation that I absolutely love because it helps a lot of our patients. And in many ways, magically helps. Together with their doctors, we create this customized low-dose naltrexone. There's data out there that even enhances the effects of acupuncture. Can you speak about it and the use of naltrexone and your understanding of it, and also use of customized medicine or compounding medicine?
Yeah, let me first just state that what you're doing is being a true pharmacist, not just someone who fills bottles with pills. You're working with patients and the doctors to find the best medicine. It's not a cookie cutter approach. Everyone is an individual. So, customized medicine is the future. There's an art to medicine. There's an art to being a pharmacist. If you're not a compounding pharmacist, you're not employing your art. As far as a low-dose naltrexone, I think here's my take on it, and you might have a different take on it. But this is a way to amplify endorphin system. It basically that's its mechanism of action. It's an agonist, a support to this wonderful system that we have in our body that is designed to help us feel good, be happy, sleep well, and have no pain.
Yes.
So those are the indications, right?
Yes, absolutely. And why I love low-dose naltrexone, because it mimics our natural body's responses. It enhances endorphins, as you mentioned, and helps in conditions that sometimes they don't have much to hope for, such as MS or RA, rheumatoid arthritis. It helps with pain and boosts your immune response. So this is a very powerful pharmaceutical product that mimics our body.
It is a good mimic of our natural endorphins.
Yeah. So it's a tremendous discussion, Dr. Murray, that we're having. I absolutely love it. We talked about diet. We talked about healthcare system and natural products that are very powerful and that can help a lot of people out there. I'm a big believer in this concept: be the CEO of your health, work with an amazing practitioner, but it's your life, you guide it, and you lead it. Ladies and gentlemen, our show is coming to an end. I hope you had as much fun as we did talking about tremendously powerful information. To learn more about Dr. Murray, please visit drmurray.com. To learn more about Haldey Pharmaceutical, to sign up for a consultation, give us a call at 646-650-5040 or email us at wellness@hcompound.com. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Be healthy and happy until next time. All the best.